Welcome to brand new course React Native. Learn once, write anywhere, build mobile applications with React. React Native is created by Facebook and it tries to solve the problem of creating native mobile applications using JavaScript. In this course we will be learning how we can build native mobile applications for both the platforms iOS and Android using JavaScript and React. React Native lets you build mobile applications using only JavaScript. It uses the same design as React, letting you compose a rich mobile UI from declarative components. A React Native application is a real mobile application. With React Native, we don't have to build a hybrid application. We build a real mobile application that's indistinguishable from an application built using Java or Objective-C. React Native makes use of the same fundamental user interface building blocks as regular Java or iOS applications. We just put those building blocks together using JavaScript and React. React Native helps you build your application faster. Instead of recompiling, we can reload our applications instantly with hot reloading. We can even run a new code while retaining our application state. And we can also make use of native code when we need to. So React Native combines smoothly with components written in Objective-C, Java or Swift, and it's simple to drop down to native code if you need to optimize a few aspects of your application. It's also easy to build part of your application in React Native and part of your application using native code directly. In the next lecture we'll see how we can start with React Native by installing it on different operating systems like Mac and Windows. In this course, we'll be learning how to create progressive web applications using React. Before proceeding further, let's first of all understand what exactly a progressive web application is. A progressive web application, or PWA, can work on low-speed networks and they are installable on your mobile devices. A PWA can be treated like a mobile application or a mobile website all in one. So why we should be making use of PWAs? If you want your users to be available on your website and regularly visit your website, you need to ensure that your website is serving the content at a very fast pace. So the page load needs to be very fast. And in order to ensure that fast loading web experience, PWAs are the recommended way. Now, these installs on users' mobile devices, they also work well over varying networks like 3G, 4G, 5G, and they are platform agnostic. That means you do not have to go and launch your applications on App Store or Play Store for that matter. And they can be easily built using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. They are responsive to any screen size and they also provide an offline experience. They're fully accessible and they can also be discovered through search. But before we go ahead and start creating our PWA, let's see what are the minimum checklists that we need to follow. The first requirement is that it should be served over SSL. So our content must be hosted on a secured site, and once that is there, we must have a web manifest. Now the web manifest must contain short name, icons, start URL and display mode, that is full screen, standalone or minimal UI. We also should have a service worker with a functional fetch handler. Now we'll come to this one as well when we'll be creating our PWA application, and that will be continuing in the next lecture. In this lecture, we'll be taking a look at how we can create a React application, and we'll be using that application as a progressive web app in upcoming lectures. So first of all, to create a React app, we'll have to install our Node Package Manager, which we call as Create React App. So here I'm in the terminal trying to install it using the npm install -g is for installing it at a global level. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now that we have installed create react app package, the next step is to make use of the npx command. That's npx, then create react app, and then the name of the app. So over here, name of the app is Skill Bakery PWA. Now, kindly note that when you are making use of the npx is available with Node version 12 onwards. So you have to ensure that you have the latest Node version installed on your development system, and then you can make use of the npx command to create the template app using create react app package. And as you can see, this is going to take a couple of minutes, and once done, we'll review what files it is generating. And in case you are working on a Windows operating system where your username has got a space in it, in order to resolve such scenarios, what you need to do is launch npm config edit command, which will actually open up a file called .npmrc, and there you need to update this key value pair user config inside single quotes. So in my case, it was having a space in between, and I had to enclose it in single quotes. So that's just a precaution that you have to take when your username contains a space. So here you can see currently it's installing template dependencies, and once it creates the template app, you can see that the suggestion is to go inside the directory using cd and then the name of the application directory, and then launch npm start. So before doing that, let's go ahead and see what all files it has created. So you can see there's one file folder called node modules, then a public directory which contains a web application, and then we have getignore and package.json files. So now in the next one, we'll see how we can make some changes to this application, and from there on we'll see how we can convert it to a PWA. In the previous lecture, we saw how to create a React application using create react app package. Now that we have created a sample application, in this one, we'll take a look at how we can run this application and what are the files, what is the sequence hierarchy, how this whole application gets executed and is presented in the browser. So here, you can see that in order to execute this or run this, all I need to do is run the command npm start by first of all visiting into this directory. So let me close this one and open up a terminal, and here I'll go inside the directory, the application directory. So here it will say Skill Bakery /PWA, and once you're inside that directory, all you need to do is run this command npm start. That will launch the web application, and there you go. This is the application that is running, and you can see that the path is shown over here on your local environment. This is the path which you need to type in the browser, or on your network you can type in this one. If you want to build it for production, make use of the npm run build. So those are the instructions that come up when you compile it successfully. Now if you take a look at this index.html file which resides inside the public directory, you'll notice there's hardly anything except that there's a div with an ID called root, and if you open it directly in the browser, this will be like an empty HTML page. It requires a couple of things. The first is the manifest.json file which I've opened over here, and you can see that it kind of provides all the icons, logo, the display theme color and background color. So all these things are coming from the manifest.json file, which is used over here as link rel manifest. href is then provided, the public URL refers to the public directory, and then the manifest.json file. Now after this, you need to go inside the src directory, and there you'll find this file called index.js. And when you open this file, you'll notice that we are importing few elements like react DOM, the index.css, the app component, and the service worker. Now here if you see, it says react DOM.render, and then we are rendering the app component, and the place where it is getting rendered is the div with the ID root. So that's all we are doing over here. We are just creating one component called app, and then we are rendering it inside the div with an ID root. Now if I open up this app component, which is inside the app.js file, you'll notice that it first of all imports React, then the logo and the CSS file, and here we have created a function with the same name, function app, and this is returning a div. That is all it is doing. It's just returning a div. Now within that div we have some more HTML content, and it is over here. We have this header and then the logo, and then it also says that if you need to make changes, you can go ahead and edit the app.js file, which currently we are viewing. And then we have this anchor tag with the app link reactjs.org, and then learn React as a text, and that's pretty much it. In order to create a component, that is all you need to do. You just need to return this, and then over here you need to write export default and then the name of the component, that's app over here. So that's what we are doing with the app component, and then finally we are rendering it in the index.html page inside that div with an ID root. So here if I inspect it, you'll notice this is the div ID root, and just inside that we have this div class app, and these are the script files being generated by the runtime itself. So you can go ahead and make some more changes over here. Something of this sort, save it, and then when you come over here, that change is shown over here on that page. So that was a quick overview of all the files that gets created and the hierarchy in which they are executed. In this lecture, we'll be taking a look at how to make use of React hooks in our newly created React application. The first thing that we'll be doing over here is importing these two, use state and use effect. Now, use state is basically used for setting the state, and use effect is used for data loading. Over here, you can see that I have taken a variable called data, which is going to be representing our state over here, and then a function set data. Now, this function set data will be setting the state for this variable data. Initially, we're making use of this use state function to set the initial state of the data as an empty array. Then we are creating a function using use effect, and as I mentioned, use effect is used for data loading. So here the whole function gets called first, and then the component is rendered. So here use effect, and then we are saying that inside that we have this fetch data function, which is an asynchronous function, and this is making API call to Flickr API, and we are then retrieving the result from the API. After that we are getting it as a JSON, and then here in the set data we are setting the data state as result.photos.photo. Now photo over here is a collection of photos that we get from Flickr API, and that is what we are setting as data. Now once this is complete, we are immediately calling this function fetch data, and as you can see that when this use effect gets called, we are initially passing an empty array so that this does not go into an infinite loop. Now once fetch data is called, obviously it is going to set the state of the data to this collection of photos, and all we have to do after that is loop through or iterate through that set of images that we have received. Now here you can see that I've created this inside the JSX syntax, div.map, then image, and here I'm saying image, setting alt over here for the image as an ID of the image itself, and then I'm creating the URL of each image. So here I'm saying image.form, and then server, image ID, and the secret. All these data points we are getting from the API itself, and then the file extension. So this way, when we'll be executing this application, as you can see over here, we are getting the images from the Flickr API. Then we reload it, and there you go. You can see that all these images are coming from Flickr API. In the previous lecture, we created our application using React hooks. Now in this one, we'll take a look at how we can build and serve the application that we have created. Now in order to build, we'll need to make use of this command npm build, and as you notice that in order to start the application in development mode, all we needed to do was run the npm start command. So here we'll be first of all exploring the npm build, and once the application is production ready, we need to serve it. Now in order to serve the project, we also have to install a package called serve, which allows us to serve static websites. So here what I'll do is I'll be installing it first. So let's say npm install, and then I need to install it at a global level, so -g and then the name of the package serve. Press enter. Okay, now that serve has been added, the next thing that we need to do is run npm build in order to build this application for production purposes. And here you can see when we are running this npm run script build, it has started the building process. And once that is there, you will notice that we have a build directory over here created, and all the related files are mentioned over here. And this particular directory will be handy when we'll be converting this React application into a progressive web application. So let's go ahead and make use of the serve now to serve it on specific address. So here we'll need to run this command serve and then -s and then build. Press enter, and here you can see it is serving it locally on this URL localhost :5000. Let's click on this by pressing Ctrl and click, and there you go. Here is our application being shown. On the next one, we'll take a look at how we can take this application and make it a progressive web application. Now in this lecture, we'll take a look at how we can convert our React application to a progressive web application. So in the previous one, we built the application, and now in this one, we'll serve it using the serve command, and then we'll point to the build directory. Now this one will open it up in localhost 5000, and then we'll open that particular website using Control and click. And then here, as it's open now, we'll press the developer tool options. You'll find audits over here. Now if you go to audits, you can generate report for this by making use of this button. So let's click on that and generate a report. And this is basically built-in Lighthouse tool that comes in Google Chrome Developer Console. And here it's going through set of activities, and finally I will present us a report. So here you can see performance wise, accessibility wise, best practices in SEO. All these are coming up in good numbers, but the progressive web app is kind of offline and it does not have any number to it. So let's go ahead and see what exactly this is requesting us to do. Now over here you'll see a couple of options like current page does not respond with a 200 when offline, and start URL does not respond with a 200 when offline. Now in order to fix these issues, what we need to do in our application, we first of all have to go to this index.js file, and there you'll notice this service worker. Now service workers are basically used to ensure that your application works even when they're offline. And to do that, over here it's pretty easy. We just need to uncomment this thing, like from unregister to register, save this, and ensure that your application is built again using npm run script build command. And once that's done, the build will be ready and we'll again serve the website. So here I'll do the same serve again, so -s and then build command. Now here, once it's opened up, let's click Control click over here, and you can see we are now opening up another report. Let's go ahead and see, is there any improvement now when we generate this report now. Now you can see that these two issues have been resolved. The current page responds with a 200 when offline, and start URL responds with a 200 when offline, and other items are also in green now. So next thing what we need to do is, over here you can see the title of the application is coming up as React app, and now we go to application, and then inside the service worker we'll check this offline. And what will happen with this is that the whole web page will go in offline mode. And now if I reload this page, let's see what happens. So you can see that here the title remains the same, but everything else like the images that were coming from website are now showing failed over here, as you can see in the network tab. So in order to resolve this, what we'll do is we'll cache these images in our application. And how we'll do that? That will be part of the next lecture. In this lecture, we'll take a look at how we can serve our content when the internet connection is offline. So here, what we'll be doing is we'll be caching all the results from our API into a cache, and then using that cache we'll populate the page so that even when the user is offline, they are still able to view the contents of the website. Now to do that, here in our code, I've made some changes. For instance, once you have your build copy ready, you go inside that and open up the JS directory, and also open up the generated service worker file. So here it is, service worker.js. Now this service worker.js is the key file in order to make your web application progressive web application. So what we are doing over here is, first of all, we have created a cache which we are calling as Skill Bakery cache. Now this cache, when the application is up and running, will be available under application, cache storage, and here you can see this cache is appearing. Now this cache is going to store some of the URLs that the build directory contains. For instance, the root, then the 5A icon, then the asset manifest, the service worker.js file itself, and the index.html. All these files are inside the build directory. As you can see, asset manifest, index, manifest, and service worker. After that, you'll notice we have also included some of the chunk files that were generated, and they reside inside the static JS directory. Now these chunk files basically contains our API calls that we initially created in our app.js file. So this Flickr call that we have over here is mentioned in one of these chunk files. And finally, we have also cached the Flickr URL itself. So the response from this will also be stored in cache. So all these URLs have been cached now, and after that we have introduced 3 event listeners. First one is the install, then activate, and then we have fetch. Install whenever the application gets started. So at that point, what it will do is it will open up the cache that we have created, and it will add all those URLs mentioned in the URL to cache array to the cache that we have created as Skill Bakery cache. Now once that's done, the activate one will remove the older cache, and it will ensure that the content in the cache is always relevant and recent. After that, we have the fetch. Now whenever we make a call to a resource on the internet, the fetch event listener will get triggered. And here you can see we are first of all checking our cache, and here you can see we are first of all checking our cache, and if the request is present in cache, we are taking the response and sending it back. We are not going to fetch it from the internet. And if there's no response available, in that case we are going and fetching it from the internet. So that's why we have all these logs coming up which says found in cache, then the request is mentioned and corresponding response is also logged in the console itself, and then the response is returned back from the cache itself. So these 3 additions we have made to our service worker file: install, activate, and fetch. Now here, when we are running this application in the browser, let me close this and clear this. Let me reload this page, or better to create a duplicate of it and close this one. So here, if I now go into Chrome Developer Tool, you'll find a couple of things over here. First is the service worker. Now service worker is running at this time, so we'll do it as stop it, and we'll again start it. Now it's running now at this port, and as you can see here, we have our cache storage ready. So this is the cache. You can see all these resources are cached now, and if you see the API call, there we have all the responses available now. So all these things are available to us in cache itself. After that is done, we can go to service worker and make the application offline, either by checking this checkbox, or we can go to network tab and choose this offline. So if you check the offline here, it automatically makes the network offline here as well. Now if I reload this page, you'll notice the images are appearing. Obviously there's some CSS issue because we have not cached the CSS, but just to demonstrate a couple of things over here, you'll find that the request that is being served now, for instance this API call, is now coming from service worker. So you can see the request is coming from service worker, not from internet. And similarly, all these images that we see over here are coming from memory cache. So the cache that we have created in our application is being used to serve these images. And similarly, these files as well that you see, service worker, manifest.json, favicon. Now in the next lecture, we'll take a look at how we can make our progressive web applications installable. In this lecture, we'll be taking a look at manifest.json file, which gets created when we build the application, and it also resides when we have our application template generated while creating the application itself. So here I have run the audit, and this is the current report that we have. Now if I go to application and here I click on this manifest, you will notice a couple of things that are shown over here. For instance, identity. Now it says name as create React app sample and short name as React app. Apart from that, it also has this theme color, background color, and then the icons as well. Now all these information that we have over here is coming from this manifest.json file. Now here, if I take you to the code, you'll notice that inside the public directory we have this manifest.json file, and here I have now provided it a name called Flickr application, and that's the short name, and then the name is get images from Flickr API. Now apart from that, we have the icons collection. So you can see we have icons for different sizes: 64x64, 32x32, 24x24, and 16x16. Then we have this 192x192, 512x512, and here we have our display, theme color, and background color. So all this information that we have in this file is basically shown when we go to our browser and view the application manifest. Now in order to change the name and short name, all you can do is just go in, update the short name and name, and if you feel like changing the icons, you can do so as well, and then you can also change the theme color. And once you have done that, you can simply build the application again. So I can build it using this command npm run build, and once it's built, all I need to do is serve it. And once served, if I take you to the browser now, you'll notice the name is now coming as get images from Flickr API and short name is Flickr application. So that's how easy it is to update the manifest data in your progressive web applications. In this lecture, we'll be taking a look at how we can install our progressive web application in Google Chrome. So once you have launched your application, and as you can see over here, we are running it in localhost 5000 port. You just need to click on this icon over here in the browser and then select this option which says install get images from Flickr API. Click on it and here it will confirm that do you want to install this. Just go ahead and click on install. Once you do that, you can see over here the app has been launched by Chrome automatically. And if I close this one, now you can access the apps by clicking on the bookmark tab and selecting show apps shortcut. When you do that, you'll see the apps shortcut, the top left corner. Click on that and here you'll see this application coming up, get images from Flickr. If you click on that, it will open up the image application that we have created. So that's how you can install your progressive web app application in Chrome browser.